Hey everybody, Arnaldo here, broadcasting from Fidelio's Frequency. Welcome to my channel. So I'd like to start off this video, first of all, by thanking the 500 plus subscribers to my channel. Yes, the first milestone of my channel was reaching the 500 subscriber mark. I want to thank every one of you for subscribing to my channel. And if you like this video, if you like other videos on my channel and you have not yet subscribed, I invite you to do so. It is free, it doesn't cost anything, but it helps the channel out quite a bit. It helps the channel grow with more viewers and more opportunities. So without further ado, let's talk about today's video. My intention was to do at least a quarterly video of like a roundup video of the releases, the new releases for the year that I have been listening to. I posted one video covering kind of like the first quarter, the first 3 months of the year already. And I'm a bit late with Q2. As a matter of fact, we are already in August and have not yet posted my second roundup. So we have quite a few things to cover, quite a few new releases to cover. So I'm going to separate them in little sections. The first section, I'll call them the old timers because there are 3 releases from artists that are quite ahead in their career, that have been doing music for quite some time. And I'd like to start off with the first one, the first release by Nash. The album is called Now. It is his 7th solo album. Nash is now 81 years old, and from a lyrical point of view, I have to say that this album is a bit personal, touches upon personal subjects, maybe a little bit of soul searching in some of the songs. Of course, as usual, there's quite a few political references in a few of his songs, but nonetheless, there's still a sort of intimacy, melancholy, musically. It's not very busy. It's kind of like sparse instrumentation, beautifully recorded. Nash at 81 still has a very captivating voice, still very clear, very enjoyable. On one of the songs, actually, he is joined by a fellow bandmate from the Hollies, Alan Clark, actually sings with him on Buddy's Back. Another song I wanted to highlight is I Watched It All Come Down, another one of my favorite tracks. Overall, if you like Graham Nash, his previous solo efforts, which I wasn't too familiar with, I only recently got familiar with his back catalog, I'm sure you'll enjoy this album. If you're a fan of Crosby, Stills, Nash, also you'll probably enjoy this album. So that was the first one, Graham Nash, album called Now. Moving on to a female vocalist, female artist, Rickie Lee Jones, also known as the Duchess of Coolsville. This is, I kind of lost count what album this is by Rickie Lee Jones. This album sees her reunited with the producer of her first 2 albums, Russ Titelman. He produced her debut album, which I believe not necessarily won her a Grammy, but that year she was a Grammy winner for Best New Artist. And he also produced my favorite Rickie Lee Jones album, her second one, which was called Pirates. But moving on to this one, this is Rickie Lee Jones' first proper jazz album. She did a mini album, or like an EP, more like a mini album, right after Pirates. It was called Girl at Her Volcano. It had some studio tracks as well as a few live tracks, and I think some of those songs already hinted at kind of like a jazz influence. Rickie Lee Jones has always said that she was influenced by a lot of the songs that she reinterprets on this album. And one of my favorite tracks and one of the standout tracks is Nature Boy, her version of Nature Boy. Beautiful intro with a Spanish guitar. Some of the other songs she does is There Will Never Be Another You, One for My Baby, September Song also. I think it's a Kurt Weill song, On the Sunny Side of the Street, and probably the most touching of the songs. It's the closer to the album. It's All in the Game, and you could hear towards the end Rickie Lee Jones in tears. This is a very emotional song for her to sing. I believe it's one that her dad used to sing to her. So very, very enjoyable album. If you love Rickie Lee Jones, you will love this. I think it'll attract also some new followers, possibly jazz enthusiasts may dig this album because the backing band is exceptional. Beautifully recorded at, as you can see here, Sear Sound Studios, impeccably played. I actually saw her perform a few months ago with the exact same backing band, and she was fantastic, and so was the band. On my channel, there's a clip of one of the songs that are not included on here, but on one of her previous albums. She does a cover of Showbiz Kids by Steely Dan, so that's worth checking out as well. So Rickie Lee Jones, Pieces of Treasure. And moving on to the last artist of the Old Timers segment, we have Yusuf, also formerly known and I guess currently known as Cat Stevens. His new album, King of the Land, came out a few months ago. King of the Land, I don't want to say reunites him. The last couple of albums were produced, I believe, with Paul Samuel Smith, who is also the producer on this album. As you can see from the artwork of the album on the cover and inside, there is always a reference to childhood innocence. Of course, lyrically, Cat Steven or Yusuf is always inspired by his faith. So there's a lot of references to religion and his faith. Musically, beautifully and warmly orchestrated. The sound is just beautiful in like the way it was recorded. Very elegant, I have to say, arrangements. Cat Stevens or Yusuf's voice still as if it was the 70s, still sings in the same register probably as he did 3 or 4 decades ago. Some of the songs that I like on this album are How Good It Feels and the closer of the album, Take the World Apart. So fans of Cat Stevens definitely will enjoy this album, King of the Land. I could have included this next, the artist of this next release in the Old Timers because he has been around for quite some time, but I want to include him in this next segment that is kind of like highlights 2 releases from an imprint called World Circuit. The first one is by Eliades Ochoa. He is known as the Cuban Johnny Cash. He was one of the vocalists of the Buena Vista Social Club project. He's the one with the deep baritone. What do we have here? Cuban rhythms. He plays, as you can see, guitar. He plays 6-string and 8-string guitar. His playing is very melodic. It's not very showy, I would say. He was the leader of the band for about 18 years called Quarteto Patria. And I guess if you like Buena Vista Social Club, you'll definitely enjoy this album. Quite a few features on it. Ruben Blades or Ruben Blades, not really sure how people like to pronounce his name. And my favorite track is with Joan Wasser, also known as Joan as a Policewoman, Creo en la Naturaleza. Hope I got that right. And the second release from World Circuit imprint is quite a surprise for me. The name of the album is called Jarakkaribak, And I hope I got that pronunciation right. It actually means your neighbor is your friend. And who do we have here? We have Dudu Tasa, that's him, and familiar face in the Western world probably, Jonny Greenwood from the guitar player from Radiohead. They teamed up kind of like, I don't want to say by chance. Jonny Greenwood's wife actually played with Dudu Tasa, so I guess that was the first step, the first introduction. And what do we have here? We have an album of Arabic love songs. Very interesting. In some songs, Dudu Tasa sings. Dudu Tasa is Israeli, very popular in Israel. He is he's one of the members of the Quaidies, who actually toured with Radiohead. And like I said, Arabic love songs. They are sung, apart from some of them by Dudu Tasa, but by a number of singers, either Iraqi, Saudi, Tunisian, and they're all singing songs. They're not, like I said, they're Arabic love songs, so they're singing songs not from their own country, but of another country, which is an interesting pairing. So you'll have an Iraqi singer singing maybe a Lebanese song, an Israeli singer singing a Tunisian song, and it's all kind of mixed up, which actually makes it a lot more fascinating. A lot of strings on here, bamboo pipes, fretless oud, and also the use of drum machines. A very, very interesting mix of Western sounds, Middle Eastern sounds. I was blown away. I had no idea when I put this on what it would sound like, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I will be spinning this, and I have been spinning this since I got it. And now let's move on to the next segment, which I'd like to call Back to the 90s, because it features two albums from two bands that were very big in the 90s and have continued to make music all the way up till today. One American band and one British band. So let's start off with the American band, the Smashing Pumpkins. Their album called Autumn. It's a rock opera, has 33 songs. The concept of the album was for Billy Corgan to release 11 songs in 3 different periods, 3 different dates. The first was released in November, the first batch of 11 songs. The second batch was released in January. Both of these were digital releases. And the third and final batch of 11 songs was released in May, along with the physical release. This is the deluxe version. There was a super deluxe version, which had an additional 10 songs. So a lot of music, took a while to digest, but let me give you the synopsis, or like the quick version of it, the Cliff Notes. Like I said, it's a rock opera. Very interesting to follow Billy Corgan's accompanying podcast. I believe the podcast is called 33. And the tone of the album sounds like space rock, very heavily influenced by synths. At times it reminds me of one of their albums of Adore. They're more, I want to say less rock and more, maybe a bit poppier tunes on here. This thing weighs a lot because the second version, the third installment is a double album. So all in all, there's, 5 discs on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 4 discs in here. Side D is not technically part of the concept. It's a narrated story, very nicely actually orchestrated. And it tells a story, the whole album tells a story of this character who started off in melancholy and infinite sadness. His name back then was Zero. Later evolved in one of the albums, I believe in Machina, album from the 90s, still, what was that, 2000, don't remember, could have been 99 or 2000. Evolved into Glass, and a few years ago in the previous album, I believe, evolved into Shiny. If you'd like to know more background about the evolution of this character, I'm sure Wikipedia will fill in the details. Basically, it involved him transcending into a god. So I believe he starts off as a rock star and then slowly evolves into becoming a god. So if you like that concept, if you like the Smashing Pumpkins, a lot of music to digest, but I have to say, I played this album straight through. I hadn't listened to part 1 and part 2 that were released digitally because I wanted to listen to the whole thing when it came out, and I played it straight through, all 5 sides, and I really liked it. I never got bored. There's one song, Hooray. It's a kid's song. That was the only challenging part of the whole journey. But Autumn, check it out, a rock opera in 3 acts by the Smashing Pumpkins. And now I promised you a British band. The Leaders, let's call it that. The most famous band from the Britpop movement, Blur. The Ballad of Darren is their new album. Came out in July, and I have to say, probably this is my favorite Blur album. Very unexpected that I would love this album so much. Their 9th album sounds very nostalgic. The theme of loss, nostalgia, melancholy, very touching. I want to say, can you say down-tempo moments? Some of the songs that I love on this album. The ballad, of course, the first single, the Narcissist, and the closer, The Heights. A contender for one of my favorite albums of the year so far. Definitely fans of Blur will love this album. Yeah, very highly recommended. Please check this one out. Blur, The Ballad of Darren. Okay, so for the next segment, I thought we could call this one Let's Dance or Let's Go to the Club, because the next 2 albums probably will want to make you get off your feet. Starting off with Alison Goldfrapp. Together with Will Gregory, Alison Goldfrapp is part of the duo called Goldfrapp. This is her solo debut. Goldfrapp during their career have alternated between the ethereal, the electronic, the poppy, the danceable moments. This is definitely a step in the dance club direction. Very synth-oriented, produced by Richard X and James Greenwood. A fun album, summer album, definitely to dance to. Never Stop, Love Intervention, the first 2 songs on the album, along with Slow Flow, Hotel, In Electric Blue, some of my favorite songs. And then we can move on to, this could have been part of Back to the 80s, but I think it'd be more appropriate to present it along with Alison Goldfrapp, because it still has kind of like a danceable, even though in a different vibe. And I'm talking about the return after 24 years of Everything But the Girl. Yeah, it took Tracy Thorn and Ben Watt 24 years to follow up their last proper Everything But the Girl album. I think it was called Temperamental. And not that they've been inactive. Separately, Tracy Thorn and Ben Watt have been releasing music regularly, maybe every couple of years. But finally, I think they thought that this was the right time to do something together. They resurrected Everything But the Girl, and I could not be happier. First track off the album, which was released as a single, I think in January, Nothing Left to Lose, one of my favorite songs. Everything But the Girl started off as a pop jazz, soft jazz, then went a little indie, then they got more with the remix of their song Missing. They moved over more into, do you want to call it trip hop or more dance oriented? This one is a bit more chill. This is the After Hours Club, more of a late night vibe. That's, you know, the kind of feeling that I get from this one. Tracy Thorn's voice, still beautiful. Maybe a one little tad register a little bit lower, but still very smooth. Definitely a very welcome return for Everything But the Girl on this album called, Fuse, if you can't tell. So the next album I'd like to talk about doesn't quite fit in any of the other categories or segments that I've broken this video into. An album that was totally off my radar. Actually, I was unaware of this artist altogether, even though he has been doing music for over 20 years. Chance at the channel Concert Buddy brought this to my attention, and it was actually a very pleasant surprise because I really like this album. It's called Terra Firma. The artist is Nick Perri, and he's accompanied by the Underground Thieves. This is his new band because his original band, early 2000s, about 20 years ago, was Silvertide. This is the second album with Nick Perri and the Underground Thieves. There is an in-depth video that Concert Buddy Chance did with Nick Perri, where he discusses his background and also leading up all the way to the creation of Terra Firma. So I will post a link to that video in the description. But I just wanted to talk briefly about this album. Mostly, I want to say it's classic rock, maybe with a touch of some kind of indie influences, I guess. Nick Perri, very skillful, very talented guitar player. He's actually one of the spokesperson of the new Gibson campaign, I believe. The album, according to Nick, is kind of autobiographical, definitely personal, very personal in terms of lyrics. It's a concept album. It's divided into two parts. First part is called Death After Life, and second part is Life After Death. And actually, that is where the divide, like that's where the division happens, is with the title track Terra Firma at the end of the first album. It's a 2-album set. And some of the tracks that I really like on this album, starting off with I Won't Change, Modern Man, the title track Terra Firma. Nick Perri, at times, like I said, very talented guitar player. There's certain things in the more extended songs, kind of reminds me a little bit, his playing and the atmosphere and the sonics reminds me a little bit of David Gilmour. So I invite you to check this album out, and also check out the video to learn more, the video that Chance did, to learn more about Terra Firma, the album by Nick Perri and the Underground Thieves. And here we are to the final segment of the video, the last batch of releases. Thank you for watching up until now. Let's start off with, you'll probably understand what the common theme is here. I don't want to name this any specific way, but let's start off with great album. Was pleasantly surprised when it came out. They were totally off my radar. Their first 6-song EP came out, I think it was 2018. Their first official album called just The Record, and I'm talking about boygenius. boygenius are Julian Barker, Phoebe Bridgers, and Lucy Dacus. Together, they form boygenius. What can I say about this album that probably you don't know already? If you haven't heard any of their songs, I'd be hard pressed. And if you have not, I urge you to listen to this album. $20 Bill, Emily, I'm Sorry, Cool About It. That's the name of the song. A clear nod to The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel. What I hear from this record are the harmonies. These girls have the perfect voice for one another. Incredible harmonies, great songwriting. They alternate, they share songwriting credits, alternatively solo songs. You can tell that this is a group of friends that came together to make music rather than a group of musicians that end up becoming friends. Listen to this album. There's nothing more I can add to it. Yes, also falls in the contender list of my favorite albums of 2023. One of my darlings. One of my all-time darlings, one of my favorite songwriters, favorite artists, Rufus Wainwright. The album is Folkography, a collection of reinterpretations. They're all cover versions, except for one. This album, and I will quote the PR on this album, or the press release, sounds like a party to which the birthday boy invited his favorite people. Various singers join him along the way, reinterpreting folk songs, let's call them. You have Madison Cunningham, John Legend. One of my favorite songs on the album is the Mamas and Papas song 1230. Young Girls Are Coming to the Canyon, where he sings with Susanna Hoffs, Chris Stills, and Sheryl Crow. Never thought I would like Cotton Eye Joe, but Rufus Wainwright has said the highlight of his music career was duetting on Cotton Eye Joe with none other than Chaka Khan. What else can I add? Beautifully recorded, sounds amazing, produced by none other than Mitchell Froom, who produced Rufus Wainwright's last album, Unfollow the Rules. Oh, yes, I mentioned all but one are cover versions. Mitchell Froom, and it was not to be pretentious, Rufus did not want to include this, but Mitchell Froom urged him to include one of his own songs, and he could not have picked a better song than Going to a Town, and he duets on that song with none other than Anoni. Anoni and the Johnsons. Anoni, formerly known as Anthony Hegarty, used to be in Anthony and the Johnsons. Later only Anthony on one record, I believe. Then Anthony turned into Anoni and reunites with her original band, the Johnsons. And as you can see here on the front cover of the album is the inspiration for the name of the band. That is none other than Marsha P. Johnson. Trailblazer, advocate, gay rights activist, trans activist, rightfully on the cover of Anoni's album, which obviously is representative of the gay movement, the trans movement, as well as the environment, social injustices. Produced by Jimmy Hogarth, who produced previously Duffy and Amy Winehouse. So you definitely get the feel of the direction of the Blue-Eyed Soul here. Muscle Shoals influence, I guess. Some of my favorite songs, It Must Change, Can't. Very touching is Sliver of Ice. The lyrics are inspired by the last words shared by Lou Reed with Anoni in his final days, describing the simplest sensations that a sliver of ice gave him an unbelievable feeling of gratitude. Another contender for one of my favorite albums of the year, Anoni and the Johnsons. Oh, yes, I forgot to tell you the title. My Back Was a Bridge for You to Cross. And lastly, one final album. I dedicated an entire video on it. I'm just going to show it right now. You can watch the video on this one, which is a deep dive of Gabriel's. Angels and Queens is the name of the album. Definitely high up there on my list of my favorite albums of 2023. Check out my video on that one. And thank you so much for being so patient. It's okay if you skip through the video. I'm glad you made it to the end. And thanks again for helping me get to 500, and let's go past that. I will see you on the next one. Bye.